Why is it so grainy? Hello. Alright, alright. So obviously the other day we had the Austrian Grand Prix. And this year, to be honest, it was pretty exciting. I know in the past it's usually been a little bit of a boring race, but this year I actually thought it was pretty thrilling. Which is honestly a bit of a change up because as this season started out, I know me and a lot of other people probably thought, okay, it's another Verstappen Red Bull dominant season. This is just going to be the same as 2023. It's going to be a bit boring. Let's be honest, I mean, I'm not the only one that thought that. But you know, as the season is shaping up, I think we're probably about a third of the way in. It's proving to be pretty exciting. The gap with all the teams is, well, not all the teams, but a lot of the teams are starting to close up, and we're starting to get a lot more, aggressive racing, a lot more entertainment. But F1's starting to get a lot more exciting again. And we actually just got a chance to see that at the Austrian Grand Prix. And in light of recent events, I thought I'd make a video specifically about Verstappen and Norris. Now, when I was watching the qualifying, I couldn't help but think that, okay, obviously Verstappen was a half a second faster than P2. Looks like it's going to be another Red Bull win, and it's their home race, so they looked pretty good in qualifying. I mean, Verstappen was ahead for the majority of it, until probably the last quarter of the race, where Lando Norris, of course with DRS, sent it up the outside of turn 3 and unfortunately collided with Verstappen. And I think the consensus among the F1 community at the moment is that Verstappen was at fault, but I don't necessarily agree. I can't help but notice that nothing was exactly stopping Lando from just bringing two wheels across the white line. It's not exactly track limits, because in order to get a track limit penalty, you need to bring all four wheels across the white line. The squeeze was a lot less dramatic because Lando had that option of going outside the white lines just with those two wheels, and it wouldn't count as a track limits violation. Obviously, Lando at the time, I think he had one strike left for track limits. So he was obviously being overly cautious, but this incident could have been avoided if he just little bit. Don't get me wrong, it was a super aggressive move from Verstappen. Well, not super aggressive, but aggressive, and that's Verstappen's racing style. I mean, it always has been, and we really haven't had many chances to see that, especially in the last 2 seasons, because he's been ahead of everyone. He's led the pack, winning races by 30 seconds. So obviously now that the pack's come together a bit, we're starting to see 2021 Verstappen, for lack of a better term. You know, it's starting to show just how aggressive he is. Now, obviously, if we go back to 2023, the same instance sort of happened with Verstappen and Sainz. You can see here that the car placement is almost identical as Verstappen sends it up the outside of turn 3. We can also see that Sainz begins to close that gap on the outside in a similar fashion to Verstappen and Lando this year. But instead of committing to that line, Verstappen simply just hangs the two wheels outside the white lines. And it actually allows him to get a better exit out of turn 3 and eventually, it seems, overtake Sainz. So that was always an option for Lando. But of course, you can't blame him for being overly cautious, for having that looming threat of a penalty over his head. At the end of the day, though, I think what we need to remember is Formula One is it's a race, right? And races get messy, they get dirty. If that wasn't the case, the race would just be made in qualifying. You know, this is what these drivers are trained to do. They're trained to battle, they're trained to overtake, and it's so much more exciting for us to watch on TV or in person. You know, obviously this is pretty standard stuff to see in F1, just squeezing your opponent into the corner. Especially Verstappen, we've seen him do it time and time again. And it's obviously just a response to try and block off Lando, who seems to be sending it down that corner every lap. I mean, Verstappen even said it's part of racing as well, even though it's not nice, which pretty much sums it up. It was just an incident, but at the end of the day, it's part of racing. And Verstappen actually went on to say also a few of those are really late dive bombs, so it's a bit of just sending it up the inside and just hope that the other guy steers out of it. It's not always how you race, but I think it's just the corner here that lends to that as well. I've been in other positions as well where you go for it and it's just the shape of the corner. I saw him coming, of course, so I defended a little bit the inside, and then under braking we touched with the rear tyres and we both got a puncture from it, which of course is something you don't want to happen. So I guess there is a bit of an argument to be made for Norris dive bombing up the outside. We obviously saw him do it a few times out of desperation in that corner, but again, it's perfectly legal to do, it's nothing against him. He's fighting for a win here, so obviously he's going to try everything in his arsenal. At the end of the day, this is really exciting stuff. To me, this is what F1 is all about, and this is the sort of racing that got me into the sport in the first place, so I'm super excited to see it come back. But if all this excitement ends up in a George Russell win every time, I think I'll pass. I guess looking forward, what people have to question now is just how good are Max Verstappen's wheel-to-wheel skills? And it seems like something that we're going to find out in the next coming races.